Good morning and welcome back to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at MarketSite is Ben Phillips. He's a Chief Investment Officer over at EventShares, and we're going to look at midterm elections and new potential investing opportunities. I'm sure you are in super high demand over the next few weeks, but before we get into some potential outcomes, tell us about EventShares and these ETFs.
Yeah, so EventShares was the first asset manager to actually look at policy as a leading indicator and then create an investment product around government policies. So we have the U.S. Policy Alpha ETF, the ticker's PLCY, and that's our investment vehicle. We're putting our best ideas, looking at policy again as a leading indicator, and it guides you to certain industries and certain stocks to own.
So do you think we'll see new investment opportunities into and through the midterm elections?
Absolutely. I mean, the best part about policy investing is there's always something to do. So it doesn't matter who's in Congress, doesn't matter who's in the White House, there's always policy items that are coming out. And, you know, they're driven by agencies, they're driven by Congress, they're driven by judicial and executive. So there's always places to find investment opportunities in policy investing.
What are some of the potential scenarios that you're watching?
So our base case is that the House flips to Democrats and that the Senate stays Republican. That's our base case. But there's also two other scenarios. There's the blue wave, where you have both chambers of Congress go to Democrats, and then there's just the status quo, where you don't see really any change in Congress.
So what stocks would you be watching if, in fact, we do get a blue wave?
If we get a blue wave, we actually think that's a little bit of a negative outcome for markets. We think markets might pull back and reassess the policy outlook. And most likely that'd be temporary. But under a blue wave outcome, we'd probably look to own some more defensive REITs. We'd look to own some more healthcare names, look to own some specific consumer staples, ones that we like from the policy perspective.
Does a blue wave suggest that you could see more regulation come back into the environment? Is that why you might see a blip in the markets?
Yeah, you know, I think it would be more noise, but the noise we think might just cause people just to take a pause and take some risk off the table. So that's really where it's coming from. We think from a policymaking perspective, I mean, if you look at what the Trump administration's done, a lot of the policy has been driven through the agencies. So outside of tax reform, all of the deregulation initiatives and all of that has either come out of the executive office, so from Trump's administration, or out of one of his agencies.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because there is a big difference between politics and policy.
Absolutely.
How do government agencies actually drive the policy?
Yeah, and politics is that noise, and really policy is what impacts companies. But so government agencies, if you look at, like, one interesting thing we've looked at that's really causing trucking tightness is the electronic logging devices. So this is, you know, a Department of Transportation initiative. We look at EPA regulations. So there's all these different initiatives across the agencies that are driving specific policy outcomes.
And to wrap up, what policies continue regardless of the midterm election outcome?
Yeah, so we think, and this is one that's controversial, but it's one that people should be aware of, big tech regulation is coming. And it's probably coming in 2019. If not 19, it's coming in 2020. So there were 3 bills announced last May, and we'll see where those go. But if you recall, you know, Facebook was dragged in front of Congress, and there were other big tech, you know, invitations sent out. So we're concerned about big tech regulation and are a little cautious on the tech space. We also like ACA profitability. So the Obamacare insurers are finally figuring out actually how to price their product and how to actually earn some money on pricing insurance policies. So we think we're pretty bullish on some of the healthcare names there, healthcare insurers, regardless of the outcomes of midterms. And then lastly, these agencies still driving trade. And I mentioned the ELDs. That's something where we're looking at trucking tightness, specifically, and logistics tightness. And so we like some names there in the trucking and logistics space.
All right. Well, Ben, thanks so much for joining me at
Thanks,
MarketSite.
Jill.
And thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.